1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Hello friends, and welcome back to Swiftlessons for another beginner-friendly guitar tutorial. In today's session, I'm going to be talking to you about how to use a capo, specifically how to use it to change the key of a given progression, and also the voicing of the chords you're working with. Let's get started. Okay, close look at the fretboard, getting started with section 1. What is a capo? Well, a capo is essentially a mechanical bar. Okay, so think about your bar chord shapes. Okay, here my index finger is barring across the strings. Well, the capo is going to take the place of that index finger, which would allow me to stick to just my basic open position chords like G, C, and D. So the capo's main purpose is to shorten the scale length of the instrument, thus raising the pitch of the instrument and also the key of the music being performed. Now, the main benefit of the capo is that it allows a guitarist to quickly and effortlessly transpose to a key that is suitable for their vocalist while maintaining, again, those basic open position chord shapes. Okay, so now that you know a little bit about the purpose of a capo, let's talk about how to use one. So a capo is going to clamp on to the neck of the guitar with the bar side behind any fret on the fretboard. Okay, so by placing your capo here on the first fret, what you're doing is you're raising the pitch of the open strings by 1/2 step. So for example, your high E string is now performing the note F. Okay, now likewise, any chords that you perform after applying your capo will be raised by a 1/2 step as well. For example, your G major chord shape would technically be a G sharp major chord if you have that capo here on the first fret. Now, as you ascend up the fretboard, every single 1/2 step you go, you're going to be raising that G chord up by another 1/2 step. So, with the capo here on the second fret, I'm playing an A major chord. Okay, it's going to sound the exact same way as your A chord right there in the open position. A major and A major. Just with a slightly different voicing. Okay, if you keep going up, we have B flat, we have B, we have C. Okay, C major, this is another really common position for the capo to be. 5th fret position gives me a C major chord. Now, a faster way of determining the adjusted key of a given chord would be to simply look at the bass note or the root note inside the chord. So if I'm looking at this G, I can tell that this is a C major chord because the bass note or the root note in the chord is a C note on the 8th fret of the low E string. Again, it's really important that you know the names of the notes on the fretboard. We keep coming back to that in these lessons. Okay, from there, a common chord progression like a 1, 6, 4, 5 using the shapes G, E minor, C, and D can be identified by checking out all those root notes inside the chords. So again, the G chord is actually a C major. We can tell that because we have that C note in the bass, 8th fret of the low E string. Then this E minor chord is actually going to be A minor, okay? And I know that because this open E string in the bass is actually the 5th fret low E string. That's an A note. Okay, the C major chord is actually going to be the chord F major because the bass note here on the A string, 3rd fret relative to the capo, but actually the 8th fret is an F note. Okay, so I have C, A minor, F major, and then finally the D major chord shape is actually going to be, let's see, the 5th fret of the D string on that capo. That's a G note, so this is a G major chord. Okay, so then we have a C, A minor, an F major chord, and a G major chord, transposing on the fly using the root notes. Okay, but of course, for the sake of simplicity, we're usually going to call these chords out by their shape. Okay, so we're still going to call this G, then E minor shape, C shape, and D shape. But remember, if you're jamming with a guitarist who's not using the capo and you don't want to confuse them, you're going to need to know the actual pitch correct names of the chords. Okay, so C, A minor, F, and G. Okay, this is also going to be true if you're jamming with a player on a different instrument. Okay, great work everybody. Now you have a basic understanding of the capo, you understand how to use it, and also how to identify chords after they've been capoed. Now we're moving on to section 3, when to use a capo. Well, a capo is an essential tool for players of all levels, and I really want to make that clear because a lot of times the capo gets a bad rap as kind of being a beginner's tool, but really it's something that beginners and advanced players are going to be using alike. Now, the other thing that I want you to realize is that the capo is essential for playing certain songs. Some songs have an arrangement that the capo is absolutely required. Think about songs like Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. Okay, so those were open position chord shapes being played with my capo here on the 5th fret. That's a melody that I really wouldn't be able to produce easily using bar chord shapes. So in that particular instance, the capo is absolutely essential. Now, another thing that the capo is very useful for is thickening up a track by overdubbing multiple voicings of the same chord or chord progression. So as you saw in my demonstration, guitar player number 1 could be strumming down there in the open position. Meanwhile, guitar player number 2 could find a different voicing of the same chord. Okay, putting the capo here on the 5th fret, I can find a C major chord again by using this G shape as you learned earlier. Okay, so while first guitar player is jamming down there in the open position, playing the lows, that second guitar player can be arpeggiating the chord, breaking it apart with some cross picking, throwing in some riffs and tricks, okay, for some additional flourishes. Alright friends, thanks so much for checking out this lesson on how to use a capo. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Big thanks to my supporters at patreon.com/Swiftlessons. Hope you're enjoying all those extra resources. Thanks to you guys, I got many more lessons coming up, so keep checking in. Please subscribe, please share. This is Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia, saying happy picking.